There is an island in Japan that appears on maps, in UNESCO documents, and in photographs taken from far across the sea. But you are not supposed to go there, not because it is dangerous in the usual way, not because it is abandoned, not because the ruins are unstable, or because the government has forgotten about it. The opposite is true. Okinoshima is protected precisely because it still matters. The island itself is considered sacred, a place where a deity dwells, a place where ancient people left offerings for safe voyages between Japan, Korea, and the Asian continent. A place where tens of thousands of ritual objects survived because for centuries, people obeyed rules that sound almost impossible in the modern world. Do not enter without permission. Do not take anything away. Do not speak of what you saw. This is Okinoshima, the Japanese island you are not allowed to visit. Welcome to a special episode of Lost Japan. Usually this series looks at places Japan left behind. Abandoned islands, closed mines, forgotten stations, and towns that emptied when history moved on. Okinoshima is different. It was not lost because people stopped caring. It was preserved because people cared so intensely that they kept their distance. So today, we are going to tell the story of a place we cannot really enter. We will approach it the only way most people can, through maps, distant worship, archaeological traces, and the rules that have kept it hidden in plain sight for more than a millennium. Okinoshima lies in the Genkai Sea, roughly 60 kilometers off the northwestern coast of Kyushu. On a clear day, it can sometimes be seen from Oshima, a smaller island closer to the mainland. Most of the time, it is only a dark shape on the horizon, softened by distance and weather. That distance is part of the story. Okinoshima sits along an ancient maritime corridor between the Japanese archipelago, the Korean peninsula, and the wider Asian continent. Before modern navigation, crossing these waters was not a routine commute. It was risk. Wind, currents, storms, and political uncertainty all gathered in the same sea. For the people of the Munakata region, the island became a sacred point in that dangerous waterway. Today, it is associated with Munakata Taisha, a shrine complex dedicated to the three female deities of Munakata. The most remote of its worship sites is Okitsumiya, on Okinoshima itself. But the World Heritage Site is not just the island. It includes Okinoshima, its nearby reefs, the distant worship place on Oshima, shrines on Oshima and the Kyushu mainland, and the Shimbaru Nuyama mounded tomb group, connected to the ancient Munakata clan. In other words, Okinoshima is the hidden center of a much larger sacred landscape. That is why this episode has to work differently. We cannot simply walk through the place and point the camera at what remains. Okinoshima asks us to look at the edges, the shoreline where people pray toward it, the shrines that carry its memory, the artifacts recovered from its ritual sites, and the rules that still shape what can and cannot be seen. For once, the absence is not a problem with the story. It is the story. The official heritage site describes Okinoshima as an island where the deity dwells. That idea is not symbolic background. It is the reason the island is governed by strict taboos. The first rule is access. Okinoshima is private land owned by Munakata Taisha, and the official site states that visiting without permission is a criminal offense. Aside from emergencies, boats other than fishing vessels are asked to keep a respectful distance. Security cameras are installed, and Shinto priests are stationed there. The second rule is purification. Even the priest who performs daily service must purify his mind and body by immersing himself in the sea before landing. The act of arrival is not treated as tourism. It is treated as ritual. The third rule is that nothing may be removed. Not a stone, not a branch, not a shell. This matters because Okinoshima's archaeological sites were not preserved by glass cases or museum climate control. They were preserved by a living habit of restraint. People believed the island was not a place to collect from. It was a place to leave alone. And then there is the rule that gives the island its deepest mystery. Do not speak of what you saw or heard there. The official site explains that people once avoided even saying the island's name directly, referring to it instead as the island whose name could not be spoken. That may sound like folklore, but it had a practical consequence. The fewer people talked about what was there, the less the island became an object of casual curiosity. In modern terms, Okinoshima is the opposite of a viral destination. Its value does not come from visibility, access, or shareability. Its value comes from limits. That makes it difficult for a YouTube video, almost by design. The internet wants images, it wants proof, it wants a camera to go closer. Okinoshima asks for something else. The discipline to understand that not every important place is made more meaningful by entering it. The island is sometimes described as forbidden, but that word can be misleading if it makes the story feel like a challenge or a dare. The better word may be protected. Protected by ritual, protected by fishermen, protected by distance, protected by the choice, repeated generation after generation, to leave certain things untouched. If Okinoshima were only remote, it would be interesting. What makes it extraordinary is what survived there. From the 4th to the 9th centuries, large-scale rituals were conducted on the island to pray for safe ocean voyages and successful exchange across East Asia. The official heritage materials describe more than 500 years of ritual change preserved in place. First on top of great rocks, then in their shadows, then partly in rock shadow sites, and finally in open-air ritual spaces. That sequence matters because written records of Japan's earliest ritual practices are limited. Okinoshima gives archaeologists something rarer, material evidence arranged across time, showing how worship changed before many of those practices were written down. The offerings were not small or ordinary. Bronze mirrors, iron swords, comma-shaped beads, weapons, harness fittings from the Korean peninsula, gold rings, Persian glass that may have reached Japan by way of long-distance exchange networks. Later, miniature ritual objects, human figures, horse figures, boat-shaped objects, and ceramics. Approximately 80,000 votive offerings from Okinoshima have been collectively designated National Treasures of Japan. That number is almost difficult to process. It is not one famous object in a shrine treasury. It is a whole archive of movement across the sea. This is why Okinoshima is sometimes called the Shosoin of the sea, comparing it to the famous imperial treasure house in Nara. But the comparison is imperfect. The Shosoin is a building. Okinoshima is a landscape. The rocks were not scenery around the rituals. They were part of the ritual space. The sea was not a background. It was the reason offerings were made. The danger of crossing water, the politics of exchange, the need for protection, and the formation of local faith all met on one island. And because the island was protected by taboos, much of that evidence survived almost intact. There is something striking about that. Modern preservation often depends on fences, laws, signs, guards, databases, and institutions. Okinoshima has those now too. But for centuries before World Heritage recognition, the first layer of protection was belief. People did not preserve the island because they knew future archaeologists would need data. They preserved it because they believed the island was alive with sacred presence. So how do people relate to a sacred island they cannot visit? One answer is Okitsumiya Yohaisho on Oshima. A yohaisho is a place for worship from afar. From there, people face the sea and pray toward Okinoshima without setting foot on it. When the weather is clear, the island can be visible on the horizon. When it is not, the direction still matters. That may be the most important visual idea in this episode. A shrine that points toward another shrine across the water. The sacred place is distant, but not absent, hidden, but not forgotten, closed, but not dead. This is also where Okinoshima becomes a challenge to the way we usually think about historical places. With abandoned sites, the emotional pull often comes from entry. We want to walk through the empty school, stand on the closed platform, peer into the apartment block, and feel history through proximity. Okinoshima reverses that instinct. The closer you try to get, the more you misunderstand it. The point is not to possess the view. The point is to recognize that distance can be a form of respect. That does not mean the island is frozen outside history. It is managed, studied, protected, and interpreted through the surrounding heritage sites. It appears in photographs, maps, museum displays, official publications, and distant live views. The public can learn about it. But learning is not the same as entering, and that boundary may be exactly why Okinoshima still carries power. In a world where nearly everything becomes content, here is a place whose meaning depends on refusing that logic. Okinoshima is not a ruin, and it is not a ghost town. It is not a place Japan abandoned. It is a place Japan chose not to consume. That is what makes it such an unusual lost Japan story. The island is hidden, but not neglected. Restricted, but not forgotten. Silent, but not empty. Most of us will never stand on Okinoshima, and after learning its story, maybe that feels less like a missing experience and more like the correct one. Some places are preserved by restoration, some are preserved by memory. Okinoshima was preserved by distance, taboo, and a shared understanding that not everything sacred should be made available. What do you think? Can a place be more powerful because we are not allowed to enter it? Thanks for watching this special episode of Lost Japan. I will see you in the next one.